the days before security alarms, cameras on the doorbell, and before electricity in the home, folks had to find their own means of protection. This usually meant a deadbolt, a good fierce dog, and a shotgun near the door. However, folks also found they had other things to protect against. Things that didn't care about walls or physical boundaries. Things that would send a brave dog running with his tail between his legs. And things that a shotgun wouldn't do much to bother. I'm talking about spirits, ghosts, and other things. Haints and boogeymen that come to rob you of your sleep, and that's all if you're lucky. But not just the ethereal. Folks also had to protect against each other. People putting the evil eye on you, coming to collect debts that aren't owed, or even when they are, and coming to do a harm to a body and soul if they have the knowing of how. So, a family had to rely not just on the physical means of protection, but also the metaphysical means. Thankfully, they weren't alone. Ancestors going back ages have had ways to protect themselves from things that we cannot always see or touch. They carried these things with them as they traveled and passed them down through the generations. Neighbors picked up on it, and it's just the way of things in the South. We're a practical folk, and if something works, we'll try it. Hey cousin, welcome to Haint and Holler Podcast. I'm Dee, your guide for the strange history and folk practices of the South. Tonight we're talking about witch bottles, bottle trees, and protective properties of Haint Blue. A small disclaimer. Here at Haint and Holler, we are open to all walks of faith and practice. Tonight's episode is on the practices that are often considered witchcraft, hoodoo, and other related terms that have been brought to or developed in the South. We believe these practices are important to our history and heritage, and will approach them with the same respect that we give to other folk practices and beliefs, with the hopes that you will do the same. In 2016, archaeologists discovered a talisman at the hearth of a Civil War encampment created by the Confederate Army but occupied by Union troops. It was a blue glass bottle made in Pennsylvania between 1840 and 1860. Inside the bottle was a collection of iron nails. This talisman was commonly referred to as a witch's bottle, and comes to us from the East Anglican folk practices of the Middle Ages. Much like any other luggage, immigrants brought their practices and beliefs with them to America, especially practices that would protect them in strange lands. This particular witch's bottle is one of less than a dozen that have been found in the States. Joe Jones, director of the William and Mary Center for Archaeological Research, who investigated the artifact, stated, "It's really a time capsule representing the experience of Civil War troops, a window directly back into what these guys were going through, occupying this fortification at its period in time." The Union soldiers from Pennsylvania held this particular encampment, called Redoubt 9, only during the times of risk, such as Confederate raids. Jones says there were a lot of casualties and fear during this period. The Union troops were an occupying force in enemy territory throughout most of the war, so there were plenty of bad spirits and energy to ward off. A witch bottle talisman works by taking a vessel, bottles usually made of glass or clay, but also mason jars, as well as tin cans and syrup containers. Then add sharp objects like nails, pins, needles, or broken glass. Often the concoction is topped off with personal items such as fingernails or toenails, hair, blood, and urine. The bottle is then sealed and placed. Witches' bottles are mostly buried in doorsteps, displayed on windowsills, and hidden in the walls or chimneys, or even the attic. Virginia isn't the only southern location where such bottles have been discovered. The Hermitage plantation in Tennessee reveals 4 medicine bottles found beneath the floors of slave habitats. One part of a witch bottle lore is that some believe they are also a device used to capture elusive haints. The spirit is lured into the bottle, which is then sealed and thrown into the river. In Louisiana, a witch's bottle was indeed found beside a river. Shane Mears, a treasure hunter by trade, often goes searching and digging into the soil, riverbanks, and other areas around New Orleans. On June 9, 2020, he slid a 5-foot-long, thin steel rod into the soil foundation of a construction site on Brooklyn Avenue by the river until he felt it hit something hard. From there, he dug up a lace-up shoe similar to what ladies wore in the 1800s, some animal bones, and a small, old-fashioned glass bottle filled with murky liquid. Looking closer at the bottle, he saw that it contained what looked to be a human tooth, hair, and an insect in the unknown liquid. Witch bottles, even those that are found, are believed to be active as long as the bottle remains unbroken. Something to consider if you find one under your own hearth or doorstep. While the find is spooky, Mears says finding the New Orleans witch bottle and similar items makes him less fearful of his own mortality. There's something about it, he said. You're back in time in a time capsule by yourself, bringing these people back. These people who are forgotten. Similar to witch bottles is the folk practice of the bottle tree. You might have seen many folks in Appalachian Mountains and in the South like to hang blue bottles as well as other colors from posts and trees in their yards. This ain't just some peculiar folksy yard art or an attempt at artistic recycling. Bottle trees are another form of protection against haints. The idea is these spirits get trapped in the bottles during the night when they are most active. Like a bug in a jar or a fish in a net, they can't see the way back out and will moan throughout the night, creaking that bottle tree. In the morning, as the sun rises, the haint has nowhere to go and, having nowhere to hide, is burnt up in the hot rays of the light. Some swear by blue bottles. Blue protects best, they say, and there's nothing that'll do the job like it. Others say use what you got, 'cause that's what Granny did, and the only reason blue made it on the tree is that's what Granny had. In the end, having one with any glass bottle was better protection than nothing at all. Blue, however, seems to be the magic color, at least according to the spiritually inclined and mainstream decorators. There's a strange dissonance when something old and magical, something that modern kinfolk laugh off and more often than not laugh at, is picked up and marketed on mainstream media. When I saw chain stores selling bottle trees and popular decor magazines with articles to help you find the right shade of blue for your porch ceiling, well, dissonance was certainly a way to put it. You might have seen a number of houses in the South with their porch ceilings and sometimes doors painted blue. While quaint, there is more to this style choice than aesthetic. The Gullah folk in Georgia and South Carolina are said to have started it up in the States. The enslaved Africans brought the practice and beliefs with them. You see, haints, spirits and ghosts who mean to trouble the living, are said to be unable to cross water. Those who hold that belief use the color blue to either trick a haint or represent water energy and harness it to their purpose. They also had access to the color with the indigo trade. Today, Haint Blue paint doesn't just protect the home from specters. I know several folks who swear by it to protect the porch from nesting wasps and various flies, to which some folk It's a far worse menace than some booger or haint stopping by for a visit. Well, cousin, I hope you enjoyed this bit of down-home education. Be sure to subscribe for more of the kind. If you'd like a peek at what lies beyond the story, the strange paths we tread to find these histories and folk practices, head on over to our Patreon. Every dollar in the offering plate helps keep the mic recording. And thank you, cousin. See you next time on Haint and Holler Podcast.